time when everything just falls in line. We live and learn from our mistakes. The deepest cuts I've healed our faith. Now I believe there comes a time when everything just falls in line. We live and learn from our mistakes. The deepest cuts I've healed our faith. Now I believe there comes a time when everything just falls in line. We live and learn from our mistakes. The deepest cuts are healed by faith. Now I believe. Oh, there comes a time when everything just falls in line. We live and learn from our mistakes. The deepest cuts are healed by faith.
Everybody for working with me. Welcome to RenéMarie Stroke of Luck. I'm RenéMarie, and this is going to be an incredible show. Judy always does this phenomenal work in pulling together shows, and we have some wonderful shows scheduled for the future. But today, our shows are called. Let me see. I don't remember. Life is a Gift is the 9 o'clock show. And We Are One is the second show, the 10 o'clock show. And it's actually very wonderful that we're talking about we are one in the world with what's going on in the world. And we want to let everybody know you're in our prayers. We want to all come together. So I just wanted to let everybody know that. And I actually posted a Let There Be Peace on Earth on my Facebook cover, because I really think it's important for the world to just be at peace and just come together. So we wanted to extend our thoughts with everybody on that. I know it's a really challenging time. So we are, the foundation is doing some incredible work. I mean, the team behind the foundation, the team on the team of the foundation is updating the logo. We're coming up with a store so that you could purchase and support us, but really spread love. That's what the logo is about, is to spread love and bring hope to everybody. We're also working on a gala. We're kind of streaming it a little bit of Tim Tebow's world. He does such an incredible job. We're doing that. We're working on the 10-year anniversary. So we have so many things in the fire, and we're so honored and privileged that today on our Stroke of Luck TV show, you're joining us, and so that we can bring hope to everybody. Richard and of course Judy is the co-host. Judy is here with us, Richard and Joanne, and we always start the show by Judy beginning with the press to really set the guideline, not the guidelines, but set the storyline for the show. So Judy, take it away.
Good morning, everyone. Today's show, first show, 9 o'clock, is Life is a Gift. Joanne Grimm's career prior to stroke was in print media, freelance writing, and business management, and is now known as a successful author, podcaster, event speaker, assisting in patient recovery process and stroke survival. And she's a stroke survivor. Joanne's long recovery from a hemorrhagic stroke, paralyzed and unable to walk or talk, made her way back to recovery, and she authored the award-winning book, Begotten with Love, and her latest book, Trapped Within, a true story about survival, recovery, love, and hope. Life stories filled with challenges, hope, and humor. Joanne also has worked for a 6-year period as a volunteer peer counselor in a local hospital to help assist patients in the recovery process. Richard Sabatino has not felt well during March 2019, had mild headaches and some balance issues, and was referred to a neurologist for tests. A CT scan and an MRI indicated small collections of blood in his brain. He then visited a neurosurgeon who performed CT scans every 2 weeks, and the blood collections had increased as the weeks passed. The doctors explained that the small amount of blood could be absorbed over time as long as the amount didn't become dangerous. Subsequently, the imaging on May 17th, 2019 indicated the blood collections had enlarged and were creating a serious problem, and he immediately went to the hospital where he underwent 3 surgeries in a 12-day period to relieve bilateral subdural hematomas on his brain. This was the start of a 28-day hospital stay. Richard will share the full story of his experience and bring awareness and hope to our audience. Both guests share their experiences and bring awareness of positive survival life after stroke. And we welcome Joanne and Richard to our show.
Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for coming today. We really, we're so honored that you take the time out of you, especially out of your Sunday, right, Judy? I mean, Sundays are supposed to be a day of rest and a day, and actually, it's a great opportunity for us to bring hope. I think that Sundays in my world is a day of rest. So we're just trying to bring to everybody some peace and hope. And Joanne, I love your concept of your latest book. What is it? Peace, hope, and love? Because that's our concept, and it's so remarkable that you're here today with what's going on in the world. So we want to welcome everybody. Joanne is a returning guest, and Richard is, his sister Jane is a part of our senior New York Senior America world. And she is the one, I remember when you had your stroke, that we were all praying, right, Judy? We were told to, pray for Richard, Jane's brother. So it was pretty ironic, and that we were connected before you even suffered your stroke. So Richard, before I begin, and something that I forgot, because I see Lori and David on the show, is that another thing that the foundation is working on, and they were on the last show, is David and Lord. David actually wrote a song for us, for our foundation, for the telethon. So we're working on that, and we're working on learning it, and I'm working on learning it a little bit so that I could sing it with them, so that we could record it for the telethon, and we're going to streamline it on the telethon for the first time officially. So we're very excited about that. And another thing that I did forget to mention is, I don't know if I said it online, but we're praying for Jim, our engineer of the show and our board member, because he is still in pain. He's out of the hospital. He was in the hospital last time we did the show, and he's out of the hospital, and we're praying for you, Jim, and we hope you're watching. I'm going to text you while we're doing the show. But let's start out with Richard, because Richard is let's hear your story a little bit, Richard, out of your words.
Thank you, and good morning. It's good to be here.
Yes.
In 2019, I was starting to feel unwell about March of that year, I would say, and I went to see my family doctor. I was feeling a little bit headachy, and I'm not usually a person who gets headaches. And I had a little bit of issue with balance, which is something I've lived with because I have an inner ear imbalance. And for many years, I was on blood thinner because I had a history of blood clots in my legs. And that was due to something called a factor 2 mutation, which is something you inherit. And as a result, I was taking blood thinner for about 10 years. And then my hematologist switched my blood thinner from warfarin to Eliquis. And in about a 3-month period, I started to feel worse with the pressure in my head. And I finally was referred to a neurologist. And as you know, the neurologist did find just trace amounts of blood that was accumulating on my brain. He wasn't too concerned at the time because he said a small amount of blood can be absorbed back into your skull and it shouldn't be a problem, but would have to keep an eye on it. So it started to get worse. And with the CAT scans every couple of weeks, it was indicating that the amount of blood coagulating was at a dangerous level. So then I went to referred to a neurosurgeon. He explained to me all the possibilities. Again, he said, if we have to do surgery, this is what will happen. He was very thorough, and he gave me a good indication of what I should expect. And then by May, I went for another CAT scan on the 17th of May. And I was home about a half hour after the CAT scan, and I got a call. You have to go immediately to the emergency room at Good Samaritan Hospital. So I knew things are going to be not so good for a while. And my neurosurgeon met me there, explained what was going to happen the next morning, first thing in the morning. And that was my beginning of my story of dealing with brain surgery and trying to get the blood that had accumulated and was putting pressure on my brain out of there so I could have some hope that things would be getting better. So that was on the 18th. I had my first surgery.
Wow.
3 days later,
I just can't, like, listening to you. I mean, Joanne, you didn't have a brain bleed. You just had we had just a stroke, right? So I think you're muted, Joanne. You're muted. That's okay.
She had a hemorrhagic stroke, which is
I had a
Joanne
hemorrhagic, so
Yes.
I had a major brain bleed.
right. So you had surgery as well on your brain?
No,
Okay.
it was too deep within my brain. They could not do anything. It was a situation I either lived or died. And most people who have it out of 4, 2 die immediately, and 1 dies a few weeks later.
Wow.
So
That's to me, I mean, just the blood in the brain, and just think about the doctors going into your skull, into your head. That's powerful. That's powerful that you're both still here. You're both still here. What a miracle. Richard, continue. I'm sorry. I just, that, while I'm listening to your story, I'm, really emotional about it. Really emotional about it.
and then 3 days later, I had another CAT scan in the hospital, of course, and it was indicated that the bleeding was getting worse. So they had to immediately take me back into the operating room and redo the surgery. So that was surgery number 2. And they put drains in my skull to try to eliminate whatever was left over that they couldn't evacuate from the surgery. And then on the 28th of May, I had to go back and have a third procedure. And this time, this was the last chance, according to the doctor, and it sounded as dire as it could be. And it was at great risk to even try this procedure. This was not a craniotomy any longer. The craniotomies didn't work.
What's a craniotomy? What, do you know what a craniotomy? Because I'm not medical at all. What's a craniotomy?
That's when they open your skull to get to see your brain and to see what they can do to evacuate the blood.
Okay.
Skull being cut open.
Oh my gosh, I can't even imagine. Right? It sounds like, I mean, if you think about it, our flesh is soft,
Yeah.
right? And
Yes.
and yes, they cut into it, they stitch it, it gets better. But your skull, we're talking about your skull. We're talking about something like hard, like I can't even imagine. Anyway, go ahead.
They
Sorry.
were shaped. The stitches was not even stitches, staple. It was like a horseshoe on my skull. It
Oh
was
my
a shape of
gosh.
a very large horseshoe. Let's put it that way. Okay, so the third and final procedure was called an embolization of the middle meningeal artery,
Oh my
which
gosh.
is one of the main arteries that brings blood through your skull. And if they were to cut that procedure and keep it from bleeding, it was probably going to, stop the bleeding and hope for the best. And that's what they did the third time. So it did work, luckily for me. And it was a long hospital stay, but a lot of people have those. But that's basically what the story is. And the thing that really upset me more than anything was that nobody knew why this happened to begin with, because there was no traumatic head injury. That's 99% of this kind of thing is caused by a traumatic head injury. I did not fall. I didn't hit my head on
Wow.
anything.
Wow.
And
Wow.
people assumed it might have been because of the blood thinner that I had been on for so long and then switched to another blood thinner. It's possible, but
Mm.
there was no definitive information about why this happened. But I'm just lucky to be here. I'm very lucky that I got through that 28-day stay and then rehabilitation after.
Wow. And
And
you're speaking wonderful. You didn't lose any of your senses, or I'm talking about your thought processes. You
yeah,
didn't lose any. You speak very, very well for what you've gone through. It's incredible that you're a well mind.
I'm
And
very,
Good Samaritan Hospital is an excellent.
Yeah, that's where Dr. Beculus is, right?
Yes, yes.
Wow. Wow.
I'm very,
Um,
very fortunate, very
yeah.
fortunate. We
Oh my
realize
God.
that every day. Yeah, every
Oh my
day.
gosh. So Joanne, I mean, we were talking about your story a little bit. Tell a little bit of your story, just to, because new guests on the show, just to regroup everybody.
Um, I never thought I would have a stroke, and I was pretty smug about it because my mother had a stroke when I was 14. She passed away from a stroke. She was 51 at the time. But she smoked, she was overweight, she didn't exercise. And so she kind of put herself in a position, to not take care of her body the way she should have. However, she also had something that I don't know if it was because of her lifestyle had caused or created this, or if it was it just came to be because of her lifestyle. She had high blood pressure that was uncontrollable.
Mm.
And I remember as a child being in the office when the doctor took her blood pressure and couldn't believe it because it was so high, they couldn't even measure it.
Oh my God.
And maybe not even 6 months after that, when she had her stroke. Now, through the years, I've heard that the stroke that she had was a coronary embolism, but I'm beginning to think that it was probably hemorrhagic. Because when she died, it was back in 1958, and they didn't have the remarkable
Right.
things that they have in medicine now to help people who are stroke survivors.
Yeah. And look
Um,
at Richard. Look at yourself. It's
exactly.
incredible.
Yeah. Now, my stroke was back in 1997. So it's been 25, 26 years. I've lost track of, I got to a point where I never bothered to really celebrate an anniversary. I just kind of put it into a situation where it was an event that happened. I recovered from it, and now I'm truly back to living life. When I had my stroke, I had always been someone who ate healthy because I like healthy foods. I like broccoli. I'm not crazy about sweets. I like ice cream and I like pie, but the
Right,
rest
right.
of it I don't think about unless I'm someplace where it's in front of me.
And you don't
I love,
indulge in it, and you don't live, they say that, the healthy world says that if you live 80% healthy, you could, splurge on that 20% once in a while, because that's a balance in life. So, and that sounds like you've always lived according to that. You've always
I
lived
have.
according to that. So did they find out what caused your stroke as well?
We're thinking that it was familial, that there was a vein or whatever in my brain that was weak, and that's what caused it. I never smoked, I never drank. Love to exercise. I was very physical, played tennis, all kinds of things.
Right.
And so I just never thought that I was a candidate for having a stroke, even though my mother had passed away from one. So when I was at Tropicana, my husband and I had just moved to Florida 6 months prior. So we didn't have our network of friends close near us.
Right,
We
right.
did have family down here. So when this happened, I had taken a 1-day assignment over at Tropicana, and there was the woman that I was replacing for that day had forgotten to order 13 lunches for um, the people that were there visiting. And so I said, don't worry about it. I'll go pick them up. And so I did. I got over there and walked up to the counter to ask how much I owed. And it came out sounding like Russian. And I felt bad because the gentleman behind the counter was an immigrant and spoke with an accent. And I thought maybe he thought I was making fun of him. And so I tried again, and the same thing happened. So I just slid the credit card over to him, and he took care of it. And by that time, I could feel my knees were starting to get weak. And for some reason, I knew immediately what was happening. And there was some gentleman that came and helped put the sandwiches in my car. And I thought, okay, I'm still thinking reasonably, so I'll drive myself back over to
Mm,
Tropicana,
mm.
which is what I did.
Ay,
And
ay,
I
ay.
I got in there and someone helped me get the sandwiches into the office, or not into the office, but into the waiting room. And I walked over to the counter because they had a phone I could use. And I called my husband. And when he answered the phone, the same thing happened. I was trying to tell him I was sick. And it came out something totally different. And it was just total silence for a minute. And he said, I'm sorry, I think you have the wrong number.
Oh,
And I
oh my
started
gosh.
to cry. And I just said, no. And then I came out and I thought, I have to tell him something that he and I know. And so what I did was I said October 19th, which was our anniversary. And I came out and he said, what's wrong? And I was able to say, I'm sick.
Oh my
Meet
gosh.
me at the hospital. And I hung up. Well, we have 2 hospitals in town, but he came to the right one. And I looked at the waiting room. It was the end of lunch, and people were coming in and out. And I thought, if I call for an ambulance, people are going to stop. And I hate
You know what?
doctors.
What fascinates me is your thought process through this, right?
Yeah,
You're like you're thinking to yourself of about other people. You're thinking
Right.
what you're like you're going through this, like it's almost like an out of body experience. This person's
yes,
having a stroke, and this person is helping them. They're like a little
yes.
angel was helping you to work through this. It's incredible. It's
Yeah.
right.
Yes.
Am I
You're
thinking
right.
seeing it the same vein? Okay, I just thought maybe I was crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do that a lot. If there's situations that are unusual for me or I feel a little uncomfortable, I do set up scenarios. If this happens, then I can should or do this and whatever. I never expected it to kick in at a time like this, but I
But yeah,
looked at,
I just want to share something with you. I believe that you set yourself up, like whatever you're doing prior, like throughout your life, you're setting yourself up for when something happens of how you're going to handle and react. Like in my world, I went right into my sports and athlete training, right? Like how do I get like I'm okay, like what am I going to do? Like I'm going to do this. And that's it, it's pretty incredible that you were the same when you were going through this as you were prior. You were helping yourself. It was like a little angel. I say that because I want young people and everyone to know, like, you gotta prepare for things. So you have to set yourself up in how you're handling things prior, because like we're saying, and maybe it doesn't happen to everybody, but it's gonna be how you react and handle things when you're not in the right state of mind and right not yourself in emergency situations. So that's my thought process on that.
Yes.
I
Yeah.
think I started doing that when I was very, very young because I was very shy and very introverted. And the thing that I was terrified about was if something happened, I would fall apart. And I'd had situations where that had happened.
Right.
And so I found if I planned for a situation and said, if this is the worst scenario, what can I do to help myself through it?
Wow.
And
And
also you were brought up with, you lost your mother so young.
Yes.
This
Yeah.
was your thinking of how to manage.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I agree. Sorry, Joanne, go ahead. Sorry, we
Oh
keep.
no, that's okay. Well, anyway, I'm standing there and I'm looking at all of these people standing around, and I look at my car outside, and the car is still running. And I kept telling myself I knew the best thing to do would be to call for an ambulance, but I still didn't feel bad. I wasn't dizzy. I didn't feel like I was going to fall over or anything. And the hospital was only about 3 blocks away. So I figured if I stayed in the right lane and if something really bad happened, I would just, find a way to stop the car and wait for somebody to find me. So anyway, I decided to drive, and that's
I,
what.
I, I wanna I wanna share something. Just so everybody is aware, like if that happens, that's not that you should call 911. Yeah, like if
Absolutely
yeah,
right.
like this is Joanne's story, and this is how you handled it.
Yep.
But if
Do
some
not do this.
right, because you put your own risk at your life at risk, and
And
other
other
people.
And
people,
other people,
Yeah, yeah,
other
yeah,
people.
yeah. So I
Even
just
though
want
there
to.
weren't a lot of people around at that time, you never know what's going to happen.
Yeah,
No, it
yeah,
was, and that's usually what I say after I tell
yeah,
people my
yeah, yeah.
story is, do not do what I did. It is not the best idea.
And the other part of that is that everybody that you encountered through this journey really should have got a little wink that something, not that you were on drugs or, you know, like, but something was up. Like call the
Something
police,
wasn't right.
call
They should have done
911, you know, call just to have extra help on hands, you know. So that's my thought.
They may not have been aware of the stroke symptoms,
Right.
but
Yeah.
they were so obvious when she wasn't talking clearly
Right.
that something was not right.
Right,
Yeah.
right. So go ahead, Joanne. Sorry, we
Yeah.
just
No. You're absolutely right about all of it. And it's really important for all of us to be aware of the stroke signs and to put your foot down and help somebody. I thought I was thinking very rationally, and
yeah.
I thought the plan I put in place was very good. But when I got to the hospital, I pulled into an emergency for where ambulances park, because I knew I couldn't walk much farther. By this time, my face was beginning to droop. My shoulder was slumping. I didn't have use of my right arm. And this guy came by because we live in Florida. A man came by in a golf cart who was for security in the parking lot. And he told me, he said, by this time I'd gotten out of the car and was standing alongside of it. And he said, lady, you can't park here. And I said, I think I'm having a stroke. And
Wow.
that came out clearly, but my face was drooping, and I'm so sorry for my phone ringing
Wow.
in the background. But anyway, when I said that to him, he looked at me and he said, okay, honey. He said, don't you worry about your car. I'll keep an eye on it. And off he went. And I'm standing there looking at the backside of his golf cart thinking, a little help to the door would have been nice.
Yeah, I would have just like stay right there.
Yeah.
You know, let's call 911. You know,
So,
oh my gosh.
anyway, I just what happened was it made me think maybe I'm not as bad off as I think I am, because he left me. So I walked into the hospital, and the guy behind the counter kind of looked up a little bit, and he was busy doing paperwork and continued to fill out the paperwork. And I just said, I think I'm having a stroke. And there was a nurse not that far away, and she spun around, she looked at me, and she goes, she walked in here, and all of a sudden you heard these,
Bells going
things
off.
over, and people started running, and this one person came behind me and put his arms under my arms. And I guess at that moment I felt safe, and I just collapsed.
Oh my God, Joanne, you had an angel with you the entire road. And so did you, Richard. Because if you think about it, the months that went by with God gracing both of you to be here on earth to get through that is really a ray of hope. It really is a ray of hope. I mean, just think about that. Joanne, I'll get back to you. Richard, I wanted to ask you, did you have any sort of aphasia? Did you have any speaking difficulties?
Yes, after the surgeries were completed, there was an incident that occurred. I was speaking to my sister who was visiting me in the hospital, and I knew exactly what I wanted to say in my mind, but when I said it, it made no sense at all. And I realized that I was not speaking and making sense, and people were looking at me like, what is just happening?
Yeah.
So the doctor said I was having not a stroke, but he said I was having a seizure at that time. So it was frightening. That was the first time that, in the entire time I was in the hospital, that I really got very concerned, because I was relatively calm throughout all of this, which is shocking to me because I'm not the calmest person in the world. And during all of this surprising health setback, I was kind of calm in the hospital, and I was just doing what I thought had to be done to get better. But when this happened, I said, "Oh, gee, here we go. Something's really happening again," and the surgeries are all done. So I started to wonder if I was going to be able to overcome this, or was this going to be a pattern that I'd have to live with? And that's what frightened me the most.
Oh my
But
gosh.
then they put me on anti-seizure medication, and I was on that for a year after the surgeries were done. And luckily, I never had that situation happen again. But interestingly enough, 3 months after I was released from the hospital, so this was now October of 2019, about 3 o'clock in the morning, I woke up and I felt a little strange, and I tried to talk to myself, and I was slurring my words, and my right arm felt paralyzed, my entire right arm. So I called 911. I said, I think I'm having a stroke. And they took me into the hospital, and same hospital. So the people were very familiar with me at that hospital. They
Right.
saw me again and couldn't believe I was back. And it was determined that I had a TIA, which is a transient ischemic attack, which is kind of a mild, very mild stroke. So again, concerning.
What did the doctors say about that? Why did that happen after all the surgeries?
There was no specific reason a definitive reason they could give, just like they couldn't say, why did the bleeding happen in my brain when, I didn't have any injuries. They were stumped. So I was like an anomaly to them with this kind of situation, because everybody else that was in the critical care unit that I was in for 28 days, and anyone who had a neurological problem was either a stroke or a traumatic head injury, and I was the exception to the rule. So very, very unusual.
Yeah, I mean, when you're, I don't know about the TIA, but I know I feel and I'm aware that when your brain is inflamed because of everything that's going on up there, sometimes it affects the speech, right?
Yes.
So that's why sometimes, and I don't know anything about medicine. All I know is my experience and guests that we've had on our show. But with time, your speech can, on some situations, come back because the inflammation reduces, and it kind of gets your brain back in gear.
Yeah, when I was in rehabilitation for 10 days after I left the hospital, there was a lot of speech therapy that was taking place. I was able to speak okay, but they were giving me speech therapy, and I guess hopefully that helped, because it was a little frustrating for me, because I was worried the entire time they were doing these tests. I said, well, what if I don't do well on these tests and it shows that I have a permanent problem? And I didn't want to know that I did. So
Well, if you know you did, that enters into your thought process, the unhealthy possibilities, right?
Yeah,
rather than, like, I can tell if you're anything like your sister, Jane, you have the most positive personality in the entire world, because she is very positive person.
Definitely.
She's just a wonderful example to people with a smile on her face. She's just, so I'm assuming, because I didn't know you prior, but from the family orient, you had to be that way. You had to be that way.
Well, I don't think anybody can approach what my sister's personality is like, but I'm a pretty positive person. And I'm a very kind person also. So hopefully that makes a difference,
Yeah. Joanne, so I know that, how did your aphasia, when did you start to be able to speak again normally?
Oh my gosh. It took a while. I went through a lot of rehab with that, and it took a lot of work to bring it back. I got to a point where, as a teetotaler, it was pretty funny. I caught with a 6 beer slur, and so if I sat down, and I don't go to bars, I have no reason to be in one,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
we had been at a picnic, and it was very crowded. It was a fundraiser, and it was very crowded, and I couldn't walk any further. And there was a table of people, and they had all had a little more than what they should have for the day. But I walked over to the one gal and asked her if I could sit at their table for a few minutes just to rest. And because I spoke like she did, she was, sure, come on over.
Yeah. Yeah.
Bring
Yeah.
your
Yeah.
family.
Yeah, yeah. And the
But
people I've had, like I said, I think I said it last time on the show, I had a young boy, he was 21, 22, 23, something like that. He came to put in, when I was getting Optimum rather than Verizon at one particular point. And he came in and he told me, he said, I had a stroke and people thought I was drunk and on drugs because I was young. When you're young, you don't think young people. My stroke happened at the age 26. I had a major stroke at the age of 26. It does happen to young people. It can happen to anybody at any specific time. And that's
Even an unborn baby.
yeah, even an unborn baby. I remember when we did an event one time, I was performing, I forget what it was. A little girl came up. She must have been 6 or 7. I think it's a video and everything. And she was talking about her brother who was an unborn baby that had a stroke in the uterus, and he's okay now. But it's really remarkable. Yesterday, I was at the Make-A-Wish, my company, Taylor, which is a remarkable company. And I'm just honored and privileged to work with them or work for them. They are very in tune with organizations, and one of the organizations they support is Make-A-Wish. And when I was there, and it just it fuels me. It fuels me to be able to make a difference in the world, because when you see those children and you hear those stories in their, in wheelchairs, and that they're there and that they have hope and that they're passionate, and it's empowering, for us to, and it brings you back to what life is about, and be kind to one another and love one another, and don't be negative to other people. And the thing that I have to work on is not to take things personally if somebody is, right? Because if somebody is negative to you or attacking you and you didn't do anything about it, it's not really on you. You just have to be kind and grace and give them gracing through it, which, leads to your book, Joanne, your second book. Do you have it on you by any chance? Do you have it?
do. It's called Trapped Within. Hope I can get it up here where you can
No, we
see
can't
it.
see it. Trapped
Raise
within.
it a little higher.
That's because of your background. We can't see it, but that's okay.
Okay.
I'll post it. I'll post it. Trapped within.
Okay, I think Judy has a copy of the book, a
I don't
picture.
have it handy.
That's okay. That's okay. I'll post it on the,
Drop it in.
yep, drop it in.
I would like to read your book, Joanne. I really would. That would be
Thank
wonderful.
you. Yeah,
And go ahead. I'm sorry.
I felt, well, I've written for so long. That's the way I can express myself best. And when I was in there, in the rehab for 3 months, the doctors and physical therapists would come in to visit and ask me how I was doing and if what they were offering me was being helpful or not. Because back 25 years ago, most of what they knew was learned through books. So physically, they knew what to do to treat you, but they never had received information in regards to the point of view of a stroke survivor. And there's so much more that's involved in what we actually do have to recover from. And one of the biggest things is grief, because we've lost so much of who we were before. And, you get to a point where, you know that you have certain things that you still need to work on, but you also are happy with who you've become. And all of a sudden, you're no longer that person. You may not be able to care for yourself. You can't talk, so you can't communicate. And you may never get these things back. There's no guarantees in any of this. So you do go through a grieving process, and it's very important to accept that. But then as you begin to come back, you do begin to appreciate life, the finer things, and you don't have time for the nitty-gritty drama that people bring with them on things.
Yeah. And you know what, Joanne, and this is something that I've had to become aware of in my life. Richard, let me know if you agree with me. I know Judy agrees with me because we spoke about this. When you suffer in our world a stroke, you have an urgency for life. You don't have time to deal with the little things in life that are just people don't realize, and I've had to understand that they don't know how we're feeling. They have not experienced the urgency that we've experienced. We've had a brain trauma that changed our lives forever. Not only changed our lives medically and physically and in other areas, but changed our lives with life, with a passion for life, with an urgency to be able to do whatever we can to bring joy to people, to bring hope to people, to bring love to people. And it wasn't until recently that I've understood that, because I would go, why? I don't get it. I don't understand. And that's where our place comes in this world right now. It's to explain to them why it is that we feel this urgency. And the truth is that we don't want them to have to go through what we've gone through or experience any other challenges or emergencies in their life to get to that point. Do it before you get to that point. Enjoy your life, enjoy people. Be love to people, bring hope to people, be kind to one another, even if they're not who you want them to be, and I got to share, yesterday I started to, I'm trying to clean things out, and I had a bunch of boxes and I was going through those boxes. And my mother must have left me a package. My mother, when she stayed with me a few times, and my mother and I had a very what's the word I'm looking for? Unorthodox mother-daughter relationship. Where she, her career and her passion for her career was at the forefront of her life, but on the flip side, she was on our show twice, and I really got to understand the brain trauma that she had back. When she was 14 years old, she was in a major car accident with my grandparents, and she told us the story. So I kind of understand her story now of why she was who she was. She also had an urgency for life, and she had to do her work in her life. So I think it's very we all have to try to just be respectful of other people, and to just listen is really an important part of our journey.
Can you share what the package was?
The package was all the and I have not gone through the whole thing, It was a binder she put together, but all the letters and emails that we sent back and forth, and
Oh, that's beautiful.
some of them were, yeah, but some of them were loving and some of them were very harsh that she responded to me. But I'm not saying that to put any damper on my mother. I'm saying that because I understand where that came from now. The urgency from who she was. She was 14 when she had that brain trauma. So, and I have not read through the whole book, the whole thing yet, you know. And she was very eloquent in how she wrote. She was a phenomenal writer. And the other thing, and I don't want to get into this too much, but I started to listen to the Barbara Streisand book. Does anybody love Barbara Streisand?
I
Buy
like that.
her audio video or audio book. It's 48 hours long. And Barbara reminds me, my mother and Barbara remind me of each other only because they're very eloquent in how they talk. And the words that they use and the description that they give, it's just, it's very passionate to me. So it's just wonderful, what, you know, and the gift is that what I like listening to it is she narrates it. So it's like she's talking to you herself. And when she goes into, she shares about a song, she goes into that music and it plays. It's wonderful. It's wonderful. It's wonderful. And it's really enlightened me a lot on Barbara Streisand, on my mother, and all that kind of stuff. Because my mother was an opera singer. She mastered at Juilliard and she sang around the world and all that kind of stuff. So, you know, that's something that I'm learning. So I'm learning as I'm going as well. It's very interesting. So we only have 7 minutes left, but I wanted to really, you know, what are you doing now to bring hope to people, to the stroke world? You know, Joanne, where are you speaking? Richard, what's your next steps? So Richard, you start and Joanne will come on it.
Well, I wish I had writing talent because I'm trying, for the last 5 years, I've been trying to write a book about this adversity that I went through. And I wanted to explain to people how I got through the 28 days in the hospital, because I said, this is going to be terrible. But I started to think of happy times in my life, and the happiest time was my childhood. So I wanted to think about specific incidents from my childhood that really, really resonated with me. And I'm trying to write a book about that, to give people hope that if you face terrible adversity in your life, you can overcome it, not only physically, but psychologically, by thinking of good times and how they affected your life. And maybe that will give them some hope that, you know, not all is lost and you can get through this. So I've been trying to do that, and I've bits and pieces here and there of things I've written down, but I have writer's block. Let's put it that way.
But you know, I used to, but you know, when we put a lot of pressure on ourselves. So my suggestion to you is, because I've been there, did that, is just get up every morning and write whatever's in your brain. Just, and don't look at it like you're working on your book. Looking at it like you're just writing down your thought processes for the day. And if you think of something, and when I'm driving or when I'm, you know, I something comes to me, or when I'm listening to the Barbara Streisand book, something comes to me and I just write little notes for myself just so I can go back. And I just have a folder on my computer. That's where I drag everything in. So that, you know, and then you'll have this collaboration of all this information. And the truth is, you don't have to do it. If you're not a writer, you don't have to do it. You can give it to somebody to partner with you to create the book. And then they'll come back and they'll ask you for missing pieces. So you just start the conversation with somebody. We're not all writers.
Great advice.
Yeah, we're not all writers. We're not all like Joanne. So she's got that time, place. It's a ranch that there's an author that she goes to. Am I correct, Joanne?
Yes, yeah. The picture that's behind me is the opening of Richard Paul Evans, he had 47 books on the New York New York #1.
Wow, 47.
For
Wow.
47 books, yeah. I'm halfway through on my third. I just can't imagine, but he's a wonderful writer and a very gifted man as far as how he treats other people.
Mm.
And
And that's
and
wonderful. That's so, good that there are people in the world that, you look
he
to.
yeah, he shares his time and his knowledge very generously.
Mm.
So, but what you were saying as far as um, moving forward, I had forgotten to mention that not only is my book Trapped Within in print, but it's also an audible book. And I did that because there's a group of people who've had strokes that their vision has been affected, or
Mm.
it's difficult for them to hold something, turn pages. And I thought if they had something like that, it would be easier for them. Or even with the nursing field, or people who are, in their cars, they're spending a lot of windshield time. They can just drop it in while they're driving and listen to it. And I just got a thing from Spotify, because you can find it on Spotify, Apple, and all over the place.
Right.
But Spotify just sent me a note saying that it is now in Ireland, New Zealand, and one other place, I can't remember where it is. So I just got
Congratulations.
that this morning. Thank you.
That's wonderful.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. We have
Yeah.
to buy.
As well as all over the nation.
Is it audio, Joanne? Is it on audio?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because that's the way I have to listen to things, because I'm driving all the time and so I just put it on in the car, and sometimes I go around the block because I want to listen some more and I don't want to get out, or if I'm in the house, I put my phone on and I just have it reading. So I got to get it on audio. So we love to have you back. We always say, shows are too short, 1 hour. I'm
Um,
telling you, it's too short. We have to bring you guys back and we'll continue the conversation. I hope that you'll accept, our offer, and Judy will set
thank
it
you.
up. And we're actually doing our telethon, which we'd love for you to be a part of. It's important. Our 10-year anniversary. We're making a lot of changes, and one of the exciting things is the gala. And there's another exciting part that I can't share, but we got a lot of exciting things. 10 years is a remarkable landmark. That we've been doing
Yes,
for 10
definitely.
years. So before we go, really quick, Richard, do you have any comments you want to, or message you want to give to the world, to stroke survivors, to people just in general?
Yeah, just be positive as you possibly can be. Look for friends and family to help you uplift your spirits, because that helped me tremendously, of course. And never give up.
Yeah, yeah. Judy, you have any last minute comments?
Basically, Richard said it all. You
Yeah,
must be positive. If
yeah,
anyone says anything to the contrary, think positive, go ahead, do it, and never give up.
yeah. That's your motto, Judy. Never give up, and surround yourself with positive people. When I think of Judy, that's what
Yeah.
comes to my mind. Joanne, you have any last minute comments?
Just that you have choices to make in your life. And so when you get up in the morning, just choose to be happy, to do something good for yourself and to do something good for others. And just try something new every day. You lost a lot, but you can also gain a lot. And there's a lot of people out there that have found that they had latent gifts, especially when it comes to the arts, that they had no idea that they had. So don't deny yourself. Open that door and see what else you've got inside, because there's a lot to still share.
I think what I learned most from my stroke is, going back to the urgency, is to really prioritize my life, to really, make sure that I'm taking things in alignment, taking care of myself, loving God, taking care of my family. They're first and foremost, and and really have a passion for everything else. I believe that if you live that lifestyle, good things will come to you. And even with those good things, bad things happen all the time. But it's how I believe, and this is what I've learned, it's how you handle those situations that get you through it. And there is always another side. You will get through it. And there is light after the tunnel. The other day, I don't know if everybody saw it. I mean, we had a double rainbow. It was extravagant. I mean, it was the brightest colors I've ever seen in a rainbow before. Usually you see a rainbow, it's faint. This, I'm telling you, this color was bright red, bright purple, bright yellow. It was, brought hope to everybody. And that's a great thing. That's a great thing. And then, we had the eclipse. So it was very interesting, very interesting. So thank you so much to everybody for joining Judy and I today. We love you, and we hope you'll come back on us in a few months. And we're going to blow kisses in 2 minutes. Thank you to everybody for joining us today. What a great show. What a great, conversation. And we always say you got to keep the conversation alive. So we hope everybody has a blessed Sunday. And on 3, we're going to blow our kisses. 1, 2, 3. Bye, everybody. Bye.
God bless you all.
Thank you.
Yo no sé qué tú piensas, yo no sé lo que haré, yo no sé lo que estoy perdiendo, yo no sé lo que va a pasar. No me puedes escuchar llorar solo sin ti, no me puedes oír llorar. Caminaste por la puerta, todas las memorias fueron. Mi corazón está vacío, como si tuviera ayer. No me puedes escuchar llorar solo sin ti. Mi corazón está sufriendo. No me puedes escuchar llorar solo sin ti. No me puedes oír
this broken soul. I'm always a giver, but I'm never known. And I'm just this lonely man, alone on the river with my heart in my hand. The conversation, they're all dead. The lines cut off inside my head. I live here like a broken man, with no idea of where I stand. Oh.